Now there's a reason I didn't start here, because once you use a Cintiq Pro 27, there's no going back. This is the biggest, brightest, and most powerful pen display Wacom makes. And after months of testing everything from the Cintiq 16 to the Pro 17, I had to know, is this the end game or just overkill? Let's talk about the Cintiq Pro 27, its display, performance, quirks, and whether it's worth the investment for professional artists, animators, and anyone who needs their creative canvas to feel unlimited.
Hey, welcome back to Artismia. In this video, I'm going to talk about a piece of technology that's more than just a tool. It's an investment, a commitment, and in my case, it literally cost me my motorcycle.
This is the Wacom Cintiq Pro 27, and after 3 months of daily use, I'm finally ready to tell you if I think it's worth it or not.
Alright, it's time for the obligatory standard stuff of any review video, and that usually starts with an unboxing. And while this is not a typical review, it's still worth talking about what you get in the box.
Unboxing this is like being a kid again. It feels like opening a giant new studio full of potential. This thing is massive. The screen is 26.9 inches diagonal, but it's also surprisingly slim for its size. The build quality is pure industrial, matte black, clean edges, and incredibly solid. It comes with the new and improved Wacom Pro Pen 3, extra grips, nibs, and an attachable pen holder, a few cables including USB-C and HDMI, and a quick start guide. What you won't find though, and this is a key point, is the stand. That's a separate and very expensive purchase.
Alright, let's get into it here. I've had this display for 3 months now, and I've used it extensively for painting in Rebel and Clip Studio Paint, and also for animating in Moho Animation. I want to talk to you about the things that truly matter from a real-world, day-to-day perspective.
Now I'm sure, if you're like me, the reason you're here is for the 4K ultra high-definition display at 120 Hz on a 27-inch panel. Now you might be asking yourself, is there a real difference between 60 Hz and 120 Hz on a pen display? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There is a huge difference. If you have ever experienced using a pen display at 60 Hz, you will most likely notice a difference immediately, and once you try it, you don't ever want to go back. Think of it like this: a standard 60 Hz display refreshes the image 60 times every second, but a 120 Hz display refreshes the image 120 times a second. This directly impacts how the pen strokes feel. Because the screen is updating twice as fast, there's less lag between your hand movement and the line appearing on the screen. This makes the drawing experience feel incredibly smooth and responsive, almost like using a traditional pen and paper. Because of the higher refresh rate, it reduces the latency and the perceived parallax. When using this display daily as a creative professional, this feature reduces eye strain during long sessions and makes fast gestural sketching feel much more natural. That one feature alone is a big reason why this display is at the very top of the game. But it's not just about resolution, it's the color. The Cintiq Pro 27 covers 99% Adobe RGB, 99% DCI-P3, and 100% sRGB. It's Pantone validated, factory calibrated, and it looks incredible. This is one of the primary reasons this device is considered pro. The color accuracy goes above and beyond. When you dive into the on-screen display settings menu, you'll see a bunch of color modes. These aren't just random settings, they're industry standard presets that are all factory calibrated. You've got the sRGB, which is perfect for anything going on the web. You've got Adobe RGB, the go-to for print and photography. And for the animators and video editors out there, you've got DCI P3, Rec 709, and Rec 2020. These are the standards for digital cinema and broadcast, so you know what you see on this screen will be accurate. This isn't just a list of features. It's Wacom making sure that whatever you're creating, the color is exactly right for your final destination. Okay, so with this display, you've got access to all these industry standard color modes. But what makes them so accurate? First, Wacom confirms that this is a true 10-bit panel. You're not looking at a simulated color depth. You're seeing over 1 billion colors for incredibly smooth gradients with no color banding. Now, you won't find a color calibration report in the box, and that's actually a good thing. Instead of relying on a software file, like an ICC profile that lives on your computer, this display uses a hardware-based lookup table, or LUT. This means all the color management is done directly inside the display itself. The color accuracy you get is consistent no matter what computer, software, or operating system you're plugged into. It's a true professional feature that ensures your colors are always perfect. Okay, so let's get personal for a second. With my, seasoned eyes, screen clarity is a huge deal for me. And since I've tried so many other displays, I have found that most of the user interface toolbars and menus, they just look soft. Maybe just a little too pixelated. Maybe I'm too critical, but when you spend all this time trying to get your art to look crisp and perfect, and the tools you're using, they start to get a little fuzzy, that doesn't make much sense to me, which makes all other non-4K displays obsolete. A deal breaker, in fact, for me. With this 4K display, everything is razor sharp. The user interface, the fonts, every button, it's all crystal clear. And the pen strokes, they look like they're being laid down with real paint on canvas. It makes a huge difference to my workflow. I'm not squinting, my eyes aren't strained, and it's exactly what I've been looking for in a professional display. Now let's talk about the surface. This is one of the most critical parts of the whole experience. On a lot of other tablets, the screen is just a slick piece of glass. Your pen glides over it with zero resistance. It's a bit like trying to draw on a sheet of ice. You get a nice crisp line, but you have no control, no tactile feedback. Now, every Wacom tablet and pen display that I have tested so far has been an amazing and unexpected experience. And that is because of the matte etched glass surface, which I have got to say is the perfect texture. Wacom literally created a microscopic texture on the glass to give your pen something to grab onto. This gives you a feeling that's incredibly close to drawing on real paper. There's just enough friction for you to feel like you have complete control over every stroke, every curve, and every fine detail. It doesn't feel draggy, it feels responsive and connected. Plus, you can change and customize your experience by using different pen nibs. And a huge bonus is that the etched glass also works as an anti-glare screen.
The anti-glare etched glass is pretty great. My windows let in a lot of light all day, and I've had very few issues with glare. The only time it's a problem is with direct sunlight later in the day, or if my overhead light is on. Sometimes I catch a glare, I just adjust the angle though to avoid that.
It's a simple feature and an additional reason this display feels like a professional tool.
Speaking of the pen, the Pro Pen 3 is a game changer. I love how customizable it is. I found that the flared grip with the additional inserted weight is my perfect setup. It gives the pen some nice heft. But the real star for me are the felt tip nibs. They truly replicate the feeling of drawing with a real marker on a slightly textured surface.
Now, if you have seen any of my previous videos, you already know and have heard me talk about this before. The Pro Pen 3 is Wacom's best stylus to date, with over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, approximately 60 degrees of tilt, modular grips, adjustable weight and balances, and it just works. The customizable buttons are actually useful, and surprisingly, I think I might like it better than my Apple Pencil Pro. What? But here's a crucial point I have to make about this specific pen display. The pen that comes with the Cintiq Pro 27 is the fully loaded Pro Pen 3. Let me explain what I mean by that. The Pro Pen 3 is a modular system, but not all Wacom devices include all the pieces. With this Cintiq Pro 27, you get the full kit. The core pen, multiple grips, and weight to customize the balance. You have total control over how it feels in your hand. But if you buy a Wacom Moving, for example, it also comes with a Pro Pen 3, but that version is all plastic with no weights or extra grips. Same thing for the Cintiq 24 Touch 2025. You get the same metal version pen as this Pro 27, but you don't get the added weight or extra grips. It still has the same pressure sensitivity, but you miss out on that key feature of custom ergonomics. It's the same core technology, but a different user experience. Now, you can always purchase these upgrades separately when they are in stock. So when I say the pen is a game changer, I'm talking about this specific fully loaded version that comes with the Cintiq Pro 27 and the Cintiq Pro 17, which by the way is the same fully loaded version you get when you purchase the new Intuos Pro. It's what truly sets the experience of the Pro Pen 3 apart in the Wacom product lineup.
As for the new Express Keys on the back of the display, they're pretty great.
They feel fantastic. They're super easy to access, customizable, and they feel just like the buttons on a game controller with satisfying clicks. It's an intuitive design that lets you keep your eyes on the screen while you work.
However, I still prefer the old Express Key remote, and even better is the Tourbox Elite. It's just what I'm used to, and it fits my muscle memory better. Now this goes to show you that while Wacom's new design is excellent, your personal workflow habits will always be something to consider.
Now this brings us to the touchscreen features. The multi-touch features are very responsive and work quite well. You've got a whole range of gestures, from 2 fingers for scrolling and zooming and rotating to 3 to 4 finger gestures for shortcuts and menu options. It's a very powerful tool, but I have found myself mostly turning them off. Accidental touches, even with a drawing glove, can make unwanted marks on the canvas. It's just too sensitive for me, and I find it more of a hindrance than a help. Now I realize that this could be because of holding the pen too close to the screen while interacting with your fingers, and it might be avoided if you use it with the pen further away or use your opposite hand. Now I was recently asked, does the 120Hz display make a difference for touch? And from my experience, I'd have to say no. The refresh rate is an absolute game changer for pen accuracy, but when it comes to touch responsiveness, it feels about the same as any other Wacom touch display I've used. Identical to the Cintiq 24 Touch and the MoveInk 13. Now, I have only tested these pen display devices on Mac OS, and I've heard people debating whether the touchscreen works better on PC or a Mac. And according to people, and many others, the touch features do indeed work better on PC. Windows seem to be built for touch, and the drivers just seem to handle the gestures with a bit more confidence than on a Mac OS. So while the touchscreen is technically perfect, it's one of those features you have to experience and decide for yourself whether you love it or not. I think it is also heavily dependent on which applications you are using it in. Plus, it is super simple to turn off and on as needed with an easy-to-access slider switch beside the settings and power button on the back of the display. Okay, so now up to this point, I have shared a lot of what I love about this display, and it really is a fantastic piece of technology. But there are a few drawbacks we need to address, starting first with the fan noise. I personally tend to be hypersensitive to background noise, and I do find the fans of this display to be a bit distracting at times. It's really hard to explain how loud it is without a good comparison, but if you have an external hard drive, it's very similar to that kind of sound.
Being recorded with a Blue Yeti X.
For me, I think it's louder than it should be, but I guess it's a necessary trade-off for all the processing this display is doing. My personal solution is to just put on some background music to help mask it. Now because of those fans, the good news is that I have not noticed any change in the temperature of the drawing surface. After hours of work, the screen is still perfectly cool to the touch. The only time I have ever felt any warmth is from the top of the display, right where the fans are ejecting the heat. But it's never been a concern or something I've noticed while actually using it. So while the fans are audible, they are doing their job in keeping the display cool to the touch. Next on my list of downsides, and it's a huge one, is the stand. For a display this expensive, you'd think a professional stand would be included, like the Cintiq 24 Touch, which comes with one pre-attached and ready to go right out of the box. Or the Pro 17, which has mountable legs. But not this display, it does not come with anything. Wacom even says you shouldn't use it without one, and their own recommended Wacom Pro stand is ridiculously priced. Now it's extremely well built, and let me be direct about this. I bought that stand and tested it for a few weeks before sending it right back. Like I said, it's built like a tank, it's constructed extremely well, but it's also so heavy and so stiff that it was a nightmare to use. I lift heavy things all the time, and I still found it unpleasant. It was a chore just to adjust it, and finding the right angle was a struggle every single time. And it felt super limited in its range of movement. And after checking what other professionals are saying online, it seems I'm not alone. It's a common complaint that for its price, the official stand should be a lot more ergonomic and flexible. So here was my fix. I returned the Wacom stand and decided to go with a third-party option. This is the Ergotron LX vertical stacking dual monitor arm. I mounted the display to it and I'm loving it. It's so much easier to adjust, and it can be moved far enough away to completely free up my desk space. It gives me the full range of motion that I need for my personal workflow. So if you're thinking about getting this display, save your money on the official stand. The VESA compatibility on the back of this Pro 27 means you can use a high-quality articulating arm just like this one. And now, to wrap this section of the video up, here are a few additional potential downsides that might not be as major but are still worth mentioning. First, the cable situation. This is a powerful display, so you have to plug in a few things, and it can get a little messy on your desk. But a positive note, that second USB-C port on the back is a huge plus. It's not just for data, it can actually power your devices, like a hard drive. So you don't need an extra power brick for those. It's a small detail, but a great one. Second, this display is a beast. Even with its smaller footprint, it's still very big and heavy. This is probably not a device that you're going to move around a lot unless you have it on an articulating arm. It's a permanent part of your workspace, so you really have to commit to it. Third, repairability. This is a very complex piece of tech, and if something goes wrong, you are completely at the mercy of Wacom. This isn't a device you can easily open up and fix yourself, so you're dependent on their customer support and service, which just like most companies is always a bit of a gamble. And finally, which is a tough pill to swallow, the price. When you look at the price you are paying for this display, you have to ask yourself, is the true 10-bit color, the 120Hz refresh rate, the Wacom brand name and drivers, the premium build, and all the extras really worth it? That's the real question here, especially when there are much cheaper displays from brands like Huion and XP Pen, which are more than capable of getting the job done. Ultimately, those are the trade-offs you have to consider for the incredible power and performance you get from this display. So after all that, let's do a quick recap and break it down into a simple pros and cons list.
So ultimately, this brings me to the core question. Who is the Wacom Cintiq Pro 27 for? In my opinion, it's for the dedicated professional who has a significant budget and knows exactly what they need. It's for the artist or studio that can justify this as a serious long-term business investment.
When painting or drawing in Rebel or Clip Studio Paint, this thing is a dream. It's a massive canvas with brush stability and no lag. In Moho Animation, same deal. Animating on this screen feels cinematic. This display is the closest I have come to working on paper in digital form. Everything just feels better when you have a full workspace visible without crowding your tools.
But it's kind of like buying a high-end luxury vehicle. You know you can get to your destination in a less expensive car, and it will get the job done. But this isn't just about getting the job done. It's about getting the job done with the best tools available, with maximum efficiency, comfort, and precision. You're not just paying for a display. You're paying for a legacy of quality, driver stability, and the absolute best-in-class experience Wacom offers.
If you are a full-time illustrator, concept artist, animator, or designer, and you want the best pen display on the market, this is it. No other pen display that I know of gives you this much clarity, color, and screen real estate with Wacom's pen technology. But if you're just starting out, or you mostly sketch for fun, this is like bringing a rocket launcher to a drawing class. It's a bit overkill, but it's beautiful. Jaw-dropping overkill.
For me, despite the price and a few small issues, the trade-off was worth it. It's a phenomenal piece of hardware that has truly elevated my professional workflow. So if you're a professional who demands the best and has the means to get it, the Wacom Cintiq Pro 27 is an amazing display that probably won't disappoint. If you have any questions about my experience, drop a comment down below. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. If you have any other interest in other Wacom displays that I've reviewed, check out this playlist below or in the link section somewhere over here. Thanks again for watching. This is Brandon at Artismia. We'll see you next time.
Now before we go, I want to give a quick shout out and a big thank you to Eddie. Your questions added to the scope and depth of this review and helped me to dive into some of the important real-world topics that many of us want answers to before we make a big purchase like this.